Chapter 34. Coincidences don't exist. 13 days, 7 hours, and 52 minutes. That was how long Amelia had been missing, and how long Sherlock had been searching for her. They'd almost given up all hope. If there was one thing Moriarty was good at, it was making people disappear. Especially when he had an attachment to the person he was hiding. Sherlock sipped his bitter coffee, the 2 sugars only taking the edge off. Every drink reminded him of Amelia, as he recalled she liked her coffee the same way. The memory pained him, and he sat his coffee up to the side. "Morning," said John as he walked into the kitchen. The 2 of them had eliminated the good from their usual greeting. Every morning now, a bad one, since Amelia had disappeared. John grunted as Sherlock remained silent, walking to a seat across from the detective and sitting down. "Sherlock," John started, "you have to realize that Amelia—" "Stop it!" Sherlock growled in fury, jumping to his feet, his coffee long forgotten. Until Amelia had gotten kidnapped, John hadn't realized how fond Sherlock was of his younger sister. Sherlock was the only one out of John, Mycroft, and Lestrade in all of MI6 who still had hope that Amelia was still safe and alive. "Did you 2 ever—" John made a proactive signature using 3 fingers. Gesture using 3 fingers. Sherlock stared at him appalled. "That is none of your business," he said firmly, standing abruptly and storming to the bathroom. He reached for his comb, which shakily sat on the counter, frowning when he realized it wasn't there. "Now where could the bloody thing have run off to?" Sherlock asked silently, surprised at how much he was starting to sound like Amelia. He dismissed the thought quickly, with a shake of his head, his unruly locks covering one eye, something that Amelia often teased him about. He bit his lip as pain shot through his heart. Unused to the feeling emotion such as this, he wasn't quite sure how he defined his and Amelia's relationship, as both of them had never been in such a situation. He rummaged through the medicine cabinet, continuing his search for his comb. He was sure that he had asked politely. If he asked politely, John would let Sherlock use his, but Sherlock would rather look for the comb than be polite and ask. Sherlock sighed as the medicine cabinet turned up empty. Turning to search under the sink, he pushed various lotions and shampoos out of the way, stiffening when he came across Amelia's vanilla-scented shampoo, the smell wafting up his nose. He took it out gingerly, uncapping it and inhaling the spicy sweet scent. He blinked twice as he noticed a small pill bottle cleverly hidden in between several other bottles, only visible now that Sherlock had removed Amelia's shampoo. He reached into the space under the sink, pulling out the bottle. Amelia L. Watson, 221B Baker Street, Westminster, W1U 6XE. Vortoxetine 5.5 milligram tablets. Take 1 tablet by mouth, up to 3 times daily. Expiration date 17/01/11. January 17th. Come on. 2011. That was last year. Sherlock observed, turning over the half-empty pill bottle in his hand. "John," Sherlock called out for the doctor, not recognizing the name of the medicine. "What's this?" "Sherlock, you're 33 for God's sake, and a genius. Figure it out yourself," John shouted back, but reluctantly got up and walked to the bathroom, snapping aloud, "What?" Sherlock held up the pill bottle in response, taking a mental note on the color draining from John's face. "Well?" he demanded impatiently. "Oh shit," John cursed, running a hand through his short blonde gray hair. "You weren't supposed to find that." "What is this, John?" Sherlock nearly growled. "Why does Amelia have a bottle of medication hidden underneath the bathroom sink?" John seemed to be fighting an internal battle, chewing his lip nervously while his eyes remained locked on the bottle. "It's depression meds," he answered finally. "Depression?" Sherlock repeated hollowly. "Yeah, Amelia's... John nodded slowly. I guess she stopped taking them." "I didn't," Sherlock began, horrified by this new piece of information. "No?" John finished sharply. "There's a lot of things you don't know about Amelia, Sherlock. She doesn't like telling people things because she wants to protect them. She thought if you knew about her depression that you'd treat her differently." "Say that again," Sherlock ordered. John looked confused but repeated his last sentence. "She thought that if you—" "No, the sentence before that." "She doesn't like telling people things because she wants to protect them," John repeated. "Sherlock, what's going on?" A slow smile had started to creep up Sherlock's face. "You're right. I don't know anything about Amelia, but that was the point." "Sherlock?" John questioned his friend as Sherlock set the pill bottle to the side and jumped to his feet. "Oh, she's clever. Very clever. Brilliant. Don't you see, John? Sherlock's eyes lit up with excitement and newfound hope, dancing around the room as if he were a young child. No, 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 I don't see what's going on. Sherlock sighed, bringing out Amelia's note from his pocket and waving it in the air. Amelia doesn't want to be found. That's the point. Well, she does, but there's something stopping her from trying to escape. Now what's that? Us. She's protecting us. I imagine Moriarty's playing a game with her, too. And that was why he wanted her to marry him. He wanted to make sure she didn't run off again. But he didn't expect how much Amelia's changed. She's made him a bargain, our safety and the discontinuation of his criminal network for her cooperation in handed marriage, I'd imagine. Sherlock ran out to the living room, grabbing his phone. Amelia briefly mentioned that the two of them had met in Cambridge, and Moriarty's all about symmetry. He'll want to end his game where it started. He opened a mass text to his homeless network, informing them that Moriarty was in Cambridge, and he wanted their location. I don't understand, John said, following after Sherlock. Of course you don't, Sherlock threw his hands up in exasperation. Amelia's alive and most likely well, in Cambridge. She used our traits against us. My ignorance and your loyalty. She never expected you to tell me her secret, and for me to listen. Oh, she's brilliant. Sherlock, John started. How do you know she's in Cambridge? I mean, she's with Moriarty. She could very well be dead. Sherlock grinned, holding out his phone for John to see, where a picture of Anglesey Abbey was on the screen. You know I don't believe in coincidences, so don't you think that it's odd that Angelus Abbey closed down for 2 months for a 2-month renovation the day Amelia went missing? James, God damn it, where have you hid my cigarettes? Amelia shouted, her voice echoing through the large manor. Her heels clicked and clacked against the hardwood floors, her long brown hair falling out of its messy bun atop her head. She'd gone without seeing Sherlock or John for nearly 2 weeks now, and it was starting to grate on her nerves. That she only had James, Sebastian Moron, one of James' assassins for hire, and the servants for the company. She'd fallen back into her old habits, nicotine the only thing that could quell her craving for an adventure. The only thing that made it better was that James hadn't arranged her marriage yet. At least she could be thankful for that. Amelia made her way to the bedroom, where James spent the most of his days moping around, writing novels where he killed the characters off, save for a small side character that most people would have forgotten about. She threw open the bedroom door, her gaze falling upon James, holding a velvet jewelry box with 2 wedding rings nestled inside. Oh, said Amelia, slightly crestfallen. She pursed her lips, unsure of what to say. She'd finally managed to choke out a hollow. So when are we getting married? James shook his head. Never. Never, Amelia replied in shock, blinking lazily as she crossed her arms over her chest. I'm sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought this entire game was about your infatuation with me. James flushed, looking embarrassed. I can't? Amelia laughed loudly, rolling her eyes at his choice of words. Believe it or not, Amelia, I do have some morals, James said softly. I cannot marry you if you are in love with another man. He looked down at his phone as it suddenly buzzed, then grinned. He smirked, turning the phone screen to Amelia, showing the message he'd just received. Angelia's Abbey. Oh, and we want Amy back. Meet us at Brixton, Lauriston Gardens, midnight. You know which house. S.H. Amelia smiled in spite of herself, her hand flying up to her mouth. Oh, Sherlock, she thought. A blush splattered across her cheeks. James tutted, bringing Amelia's focus back to him. He shook his head slowly, still staring at the message on the phone. Well, I can say, my dear, this has been quite fun. However, I cannot let him continue. James pursed his lips, still shaking his head. He looked up at Amelia. Sincerest apologies, Amelia, dear. James, what are you talking about? Amelia said, her voice growing panicked. Her face paled as James looked up at her with a mechanical grin, her silvery eyes wide. He remained silent, but waved someone behind Amelia forward. She spun around, ready to attack, only to come face to face with Sebastian Moran's cold, blue-gray eyes. He pressed the tip of a needle into her neck, pinning Amelia's arms to her sides as she struggled to escape. Her eyelids started to droop closed, despite how hard she fought to keep them open. It hurts less if you don't fight it, James chided gently. James, Amelia mumbled, you promised. Did I? James asked, sounding surprised. Tell me, Amelia, did you ever hear me say the word I promise? Because I don't believe I did. You heartless bastard, Amelia groaned, falling limp in Moran's arms. You're only getting that now, yeah? James laughed darkly. Have a nice sleep. See you in a few hours, Amelia. And that was the last thing Amelia heard before she fell unconscious. Chapter 35. Vengeful Reconsolidation? I think is how you pronounce that word. What are you doing? Are you, like, not comfortable or something? Can you shush? Or just stay still. Midnight, number 3, Brixton, Lordston Gardens. Sherlock's mind was racing at a pace that had never run before. One wrong move and he, John, and Amelia would be shot. They had tread lightly and carefully. He'd chosen this as their meeting place for a reason. If Moriarty had indeed been keeping a careful eye on Sherlock, John, and Amelia the entire time, he knew that this was the first case Sherlock and John had ever been on. Sherlock hadn't felt these emotions that churned inside him for quite some time now. Not since Redbeard, at least. He wasn't sure if the emotions he currently had were a good thing or a bad thing. Certainly, it motivated him, but it also hindered his abilities to make logical and rational decisions. But Sherlock knew that if he returned back to his old sociopathic ways, no one would forgive him. Not Lestrade, not Amelia, not Mrs. Hudson, not Molly, and most definitely not John. Correction, Molly would forgive him, but only if the two of them engaged in a relationship, and then Sherlock would be back where he started. Emotions were confusing. Sherlock, this is a really bad idea, John hissed as they stood outside of the house. John contained a shiver at the odd sense of déjà vu that struck him, although he sincerely hoped that the events wouldn't unfold like they had in his study in Pink. Because if they did, it meant that it would be Amelia's corpse laying face down in the room, a note scratched into the floor. At least they'd known who'd kill her, although it wouldn't change the fact that she was dead. John shook his head clear of those violent thoughts, momentarily disgusted with the fact that he thought all that up. Under any other circumstance, he may be quite worried, but it was Amelia in there, and Sherlock was going to save her. Hopefully. Shut up, Sherlock turned around and snapped at John. I was thinking. Yes, but you're also getting quite stressed, Sherlock replied smoothly. Presumably because you're thinking of all the ways this could go wrong, or that this resembles our first case together. Nonetheless, stress and nerves are never a good thing to have when you're faced with the criminal mastermind. Sherlock, you can't get mad at people for thinking, John reprimanded sternly, groaning when he realized the consulting detective was already walking away, his coat tailing behind him in the mild wind. Jesus Christ, Sherlock, you can't even hear me? Are you listening? Sherlock paused at the doorway, glancing over his shoulder at the doctor. Here? Yes. Listening? No. For God's sake, Sherlock, John said in exasperation, now is not the time to be clever. Amelia, my sister, and whatever the hell she is to you, is in danger from Moriarty. Why can you not grasp the severity of this bloody situation? I very much understand the severity of the situation, John, Sherlock said, completely unfazed. However, if I let myself fret, none of us will be leaving this building alive. Do you understand me? John nodded meekly. Good, Sherlock said simply, sharply turning on his heel and barging into the building. He trotted up the stairs, uncomfortable by the lack of light and sound. He furrowed his brows as he reached the top of the stairs. The door to the room where they had found Jennifer Wilson's body closed. Sherlock pushed open the door, slowly stepping in, with John trailing behind him. Sherlock scanned the dark room, noticing 2 dark figures on either end of the room. This has been a lot of fun, hasn't it, Sherlock? James' haunted voice said, almost mockingly, low and taunting. What do you want, Moriarty? Sherlock demanded, trying to peer into the darkness to look for the consulting criminal. You don't want power, not really. You're quite right, James said. Quite frankly, I'm just bored. It's been a nice little distraction, the game you, Amelia, and I are playing. The light suddenly came on to reveal a bruised and battered Amelia, cuts lingering her cheeks. She groaned softly, looking up at Sherlock, her silvery eyes full of pain. John gasped beside Sherlock, his hand flying to his mouth. Amy, John said in horror, taking in her disheveled form. Her Union Jack printed skinny jeans were ripped in the knee. Pieces of gravel embedded in the fabric as if someone had thrown her to the ground and skinned her knees. While Sherlock's black button-up had been draped around her shoulders, although she wore an unfamiliar shirt underneath, presumably James, white marks from what appeared to be chalk scuffed the leather of her Oxfords, and small chunks of her hair had been ripped from her scalp. Blood dried on the remaining brown locks. She's feisty, this one. But we already knew that, didn't we, Sherlock? James said, arching his eyebrow in question. She tried to escape. Didn't end well for either of us. She gave me a nasty bruise. James feigned pain, dabbing at a large purple splotch of skin with his handkerchief. Oh well, I suppose it is my fault for keeping her. But she has been a lot of fun. Sherlock took a step forward, freezing, when James held a pistol to Amelia's temple. One more step, James warned, and I shoot. John, go back downstairs and wait there, Sherlock ordered, turning to face John. What? Now. Now, John, Sherlock growled, his hate-filled eyes on Moriarty. And you say you're not a couple? James chuckled, shaking his head in mock disbelief, as John left the room, hearing the door slam shut behind him. James, one more fucking word, and I swear to fucking God I will fucking kill you, Amelia spat, mustering enough strength to insult him. Ooh, James said, his voice sing-song, as he held Amelia close to his side, the gun never leaving her temple. Someone's awfully protective. Your protectiveness, your undying loyalty to the ones you love will be your downfall, Amelia dear. Amelia thrust her elbow upward into James' nose, breaking it once again. Let me get this through your thick skull. I'm no one's dear. I am my own goddamn person, and I can fend for myself. Now get your bloody hands off of me, or this will be the last time you have hands. James let her go slowly, although he kept the pistol aimed on her at all times. Then he laughed, the sound echoing off the walls. You see, Sherlock, James said, putting one hand in his trouser pockets. I promise both of you, and Miss Watson here, a fall. He shrugged nonchalantly. You're going to take a tumble, Sherlock. But she is going to fall from grace. Our perfect little angel is going to fall from heaven. Sherlock pursed his lips, reaching for the L9A1 Browning in his pocket, stopping shortly when James tutted in his disapproval. If you move one more inch, Sherlock, Amelia's blood is going to decorate the walls, James sang politely, his tone not easing his threat. He smiled creepily as Sherlock raised his hands in his shoulder. Now you see, I have a bit of a problem, Sherlock. Would you care to elaborate? Sherlock prompted, arching an eyebrow. And if you would kindly lower your gun, I believe Amelia would appreciate it quite a lot. James removed his hands from his trousers so he could wag his finger condescendingly at Sherlock. Look at you, the famous consulting detective. James cocked his head, baring his teeth slightly. How can you remain so calm? I know it made people thick. But you? Tell me, Sherlock. Would you feel anything if I did this? James grabbed Amelia's hair, dragging her to his side. He retrieved a knife from his other pocket, and before Amelia could do anything to fight him, he slid a long cut from her wrist to her inner elbow. Amelia gasped as the sharp pain shot through her arm, blood already beginning to well in the shallow wound. Sherlock's gaze turned cold, coolly looking at Moriarty before raising his shoulder flippantly. Amelia bit her lower lip, blocking out the throbbing pain in her inner arm. James, she said softly, her voice timid and soft, as if she didn't want to scare him. Stop it. Stop this. No, James hissed darkly. Not until your dearest Sherlock shows some emotion. His voice grew to a shout, glaring fiercely at Sherlock with an almost impatiently raised eyebrow. Well, Sherlock, are you going to say that you feel nothing for her? When Sherlock didn't reply, James let Amelia go slowly, his eyes never leaving Sherlock's. Amelia clutched her arm close, trying to stem the flowing blood. You see, Sherlock, I have a problem. Oh, do you now? Sherlock said, raising a mildly amused eyebrow. You think you're so funny, don't you? James chuckled lowly, not approving of Sherlock's retort. Now, I have a problem. There are 2 Watsons and 1 of you. I don't see the problem, Sherlock narrowed his eyes, watching Moriarty as the consulting criminal took a step towards the detective. Don't you? James smirked. I can't let you walk out of here with both of them, Sherlock. So make your decision. Who are you going to save, Amelia or John? The Watsons are depending on you. You're not going to let them down, are you? Choose, Sherlock repeated slowly, his voice lacking all emotion. His gaze turned cold as the criminal got up in his face, to the point where he could feel Moriarty's hot breath at the hollow of his neck. You want me to choose who to save? You have to admit, James grinned, it's creative. Took me ages to figure out to get to you. But here it is. Sherlock, Amelia said softly. Sherlock's eyes immediately snapped at her. Take John and leave. Ooh, James sneered. Look at that. She's sacrificing herself again to save you and John. Honorable little thing, isn't she? James fucking Moriarty, Amelia spat, signifying that if she wasn't before, she was now 100% and truly pissed. You shut your bloody mouth. I'm talking. James gaped at her outburst, his eyes widening before chuckling quietly and complying. I can't leave you, said Sherlock as Amelia turned to face him. Yes, you can, Amelia disagreed, crossing her arm over her chest. You'll move past me, but if John is taken away from you, you'll never forgive yourself, she said briefly, looking to James. I know what he's doing. He's trying to break you, Sherlock. He's trying to burn you before your fall, so it hurts that much more. If I leave you with him, he'll kill you, Sherlock said quietly. No, he won't, Sherlock. Have you not been paying attention to anything? Amelia shrieked, oblivious to James' accomplished snark. If you take John and get out of here, you can still win this stupid game. What if I save both of them and give myself up? Sherlock said softly, glancing at James. You could, but... James looked to Amelia to finish her sentence. But then John and I'd be killed. Amelia finished with pursed lips. Basically play his game, or we all die. Pleasant, Sherlock said sarcastically. Very, Amelia agreed, also sarcastic. Sherlock hummed while he thought. Still looking at Moriarty. And what if I save Amelia? What happens then? Then poor John would die, James cackled, and Amelia would hate you. But she'd still be alive. Her mind wouldn't be. I imagine she'd have to go to an asylum. She's quite unstable, you know, James answered flippantly, completely undisturbed by the fact. Such a waste. Sherlock bit his lower lip in an Amelia-like manner. So save Amelia and John and have all three of us get killed. Save John and let you have Amelia and die myself. Or save Amelia and John and I get killed. Not much of a choice, is there? No, James said hastily. You have loads of choices. Doesn't mean that any of them are any good. Sherlock nodded. This is ridiculous, Amelia muttered, sprinting forward, and in a split second grabbed the knife from James' pocket. She pointed the blade toward Sherlock next, her eyes glinting dangerously. Now you both know I have impeccable aim, and I will not hesitate to kill either of you. Amelia, Sherlock warned, you don't have to do this. I don't give a damn about what I have to and don't have to do, Amelia spat, gesturing with the knife. This is my life, and I damn well live it as I please. So, unless you want to die, Sherlock, you will take John and get out of here. Sherlock opened his mouth, then quickly shut it, making sure that James didn't think he was reaching for a weapon. Sherlock put a hand into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, tossing it at Amelia's feet. She furrowed her brows, then bent down, picking up the box. She flipped open the lid of the box, all color draining from her face, as she saw the simply vintage engagement ring nestled in between two cushions. It was my mother's, Sherlock whispered. I was going to ask you to marry me, but then your mother came over, and the rest, they say, is history. Oh, Sherlock, Amelia mumbled. I'm so sorry. I know, Sherlock said sadly, turning on his heels and leaving the room. He slammed the door behind him, holding back the tears that threatened to burst forth. He couldn't deny Amelia's logic. To argue with her would be futile. If he saved John, Amelia would remain safe in Moriarty's care, and they'd still have a shot at beating Moriarty's game. If he saved Amelia, John would die, and Sherlock would still be able to beat Moriarty's game. But Amelia would go insane with the loss of her brother. She'd never be the same again, and if he were to save both the Watsons, all three of them would be killed. Sherlock bit back a groan, closing his eyes as the tears began to flow. What the hell is that about? Amelia shrieked as the door closed behind Sherlock, glaring in hatred at James. Her hands were clenched at her sides, her long, broken nails digging into her tender flesh of her palm. Oh, absolutely everything, James answered smartly, smirking as he walked towards Amelia. You see, Amelia, your dear Sherlock was starting to lack motivation. He's starting to lose his reason to continue to play this game of mine. He grinned mechanically. I guess we'll just have to change that. Chapter 36. Chess, violins... Wait, it is 36? Yeah, okay. 36. Chess, violins in... musings? Amelia paled considerably. Her silvery eyes locked on Moriarty. What do you mean? She asked nervously, as Moriarty took a step towards her. What do you mean you're going to have to change that? James shook his head slowly, grinning. He needs to finish this game, Amelia. No. No, he doesn't, James, Amelia shouted as James slowly approached her, eyeing her as if he were a shark. You can't stop this nonsense. No one else has to die. Oh, James said, chewing the inside of his lower lip as he looked at her condescendingly. But I want them to. All of a sudden, the lights were out. Amelia desperately looking around the room, her eyes not adjusting quick enough to the cover of darkness that had sent over the room. She spun in circles, frantically searching for James. Don't worry, James' mechanical voice cackled. This won't hurt a bit. Amelia heard the opening of the switchblade and heard the rapid approach of Jim's feet. She screamed as the metal pierced into her forearm. All of her emotional control lost. She was sure that if it had been anyone else who'd attacked her, but it didn't matter now, because Moriarty had lied. Because it hurt like hell. Sherlock, John questioned as his friend stormed down the stairs, a stony expression on his handsome face. He hadn't seen the detective like this in quite some time. Not since Amelia had moved in with them, at least. Where's Amelia? Sherlock remained silent, a muscle in his jaw twitching as he fought to remain in control of the rage that surged through him. Christ! John exclaimed as he followed Sherlock outside. You left her with him? Sherlock spun around vehemently, his green-blue eyes blazing in fury. I didn't leave her, John, he growled forcefully. She gave herself up again to save us both. Sherlock kicked the rusted metal fence in front of the house, leaving a significant dent in the weak metal. Damn it! John wasn't quite sure what to do or say, but then the loud, ear-splitting shriek rang out through the late night, unmistakably Amelia's. John's eyes widened. Sure, I heard it, Sherlock said, his voice pained. He clenched his hands at his side, mind racing with all the possibilities of what Moriarty could possibly be doing to Amelia to make her scream this loud. Sherlock briefly closed his eyes, taking comfort in the darkness that rested behind him. His eyes snapped open as he heard footsteps come down the stairs, the sound muffled by the door that separated Sherlock from the house. James Moriarty stepped out of the house, casually, cleaning off a small switchblade with a handkerchief. He arched his eyebrows at Sherlock and John. Oh, you're still here. You son of a... John started. You might want to tend to your sister, James said, cutting John off. She's bleeding quite profusely. You're leaving her with us? Sherlock dawdled slowly, narrowing his eyes at Moriarty as John quickly sprinted up the stairs to take care of Amelia. Oh, I never intended to keep her, James shrugged. You need some motivation, a reminder that no one you love is safe in this little game of ours. But you already knew that, didn't you? The clever detective who gave his heart to the fallen angel? James looked off into the distance, deep in thought. 30 million quid. That's how much I was willing to bet that you played this game. It's quite a lot of money when you think about it. Isn't it funny how the ordinary people live their lives ruled by small pieces of paper? Hilarious, Sherlock stated sarcastically. Liar, Jim said, calling his bluff. Anyways, I best be off. I'll see you soon, Sherlock. Will we? We definitely will. We still have to finish this game of ours, James nodded. What did Amelia compare it to? Oh yes, chess. James smiled at the thought. This is a dangerous game of chess, Sherlock, and sometimes you have to be willing to sacrifice a few pawns before you win. And just before I go, James leaned into to whisper into Sherlock's ears. Check. Your move. Choose wisely. James mockingly saluted him, sliding into a sleek black limo that had pulled up, then drove away. Sherlock turned his focus back to the building before him. John coming down the stairs with Amelia's arm slung around his shoulder. She shook, looking weaker than Sherlock had ever seen her before, a milky film covering her eyes, and she glanced around frantically, as if she couldn't see her surroundings. Sherlock furrowed his brows worriedly, his gaze traveling from her clouded, silvery eyes to the blood covering her right arm, the one that had been uninjured until moments ago. It was then that he noticed the slightly raised scratch-like marks. He retrieved a small white handkerchief from his pocket, a gift from Mycroft Holmes had thought he'd never use, and gingerly picked up Amelia's arm, gently swiping away at the blood, visibly cringing at what marked her skin. A sweetly scented angel fell. She laid her hand upon my disbelief, and battled with me was her ever smile. Sherlock stared at the lettering, appalled. Oh, Amy, Sherlock said softly, as Amelia collapsed in his arms, falling into shock. What have you gotten yourself into? Amelia woke up screaming. She couldn't see her surroundings. Everything to be appeared black, although she knew that her eyes were open, and that there were light in the room. She desperately tried to escape an unseen attacker as they tried to pin her down, placing their hands on her shoulder. Amy, if you don't stop fighting me, we're both going to end up hurt, Sherlock's disemboweled voice said sternly. Sure, is that you? Amelia's voice wavered uncertainly. I can't see anything, and my arm hurts. What happened, Sherlock? Sherlock pushed Amelia down. Thankful she stopped struggling, lest she shifted the carefully tied gauze around her arm's wounds. You got hurt, he answered softly, brushing her dark locks away from her face. Moriarty hurt you. Do you remember what happened? Amelia tried to recall the events from the night before. Moriarty had tried to make a bargain with you, Amelia said quietly. He cut me, trying to get you to have a human reaction. The rest is just sort of a blur. Bloody hell, this whole no vision thing is pissing me off. I don't even know where you are." Sherlock chuckled, perching on the end of the bed and taking Amelia's hands in his own. "I'm right here," he said gently. Amelia reached up with her free hand, ignoring the slight pain in her arm, and gently patted Sherlock's face, feeling his nose. She lingered an extra moment on his angular cheekbones, a smirk twitching on her lips. "Oh, hey you." "Hello," Sherlock laughed, taking Amelia's hand and pressing his lips to the back of it. "How are you?" "Well, I can't see. My arms hurt like hell, and I'm terribly confused, not to mention angry," Amelia replied touchedly, sticking her lower up in a pout. "Why can't I see anything? You never answered my question." She heard Sherlock shrug. "We're not quite sure, but we think Moriarty put a chemical in your eyes. The blindness should go away in a few days, maybe a week." "You're starting to sound like John," Amelia grumbled before pausing momentarily. "Wait, maybe a week? I'm a bloody MI6 agent who works with a detective. How the hell am I supposed to go without my sight?" "You'll manage," Sherlock comforted. "Damn right, or as soon as I can, I'm coming after you," Amelia muttered, running a hand through her hair. She fell back into the pillows, groaning in frustrations. "I'm already bored." "Come on," Sherlock said gently, helping her into a sitting position and guiding her to the living room. He sat a violin in her hand, resting it to her chin. "Sherlock," Amelia said in exasperation, "I can't play the violin without being able to see." "Yes, but you used to be able to," Sherlock pointed out, coming up behind Amelia and wrapping his arms around her, correcting her playing position. "Would you care to relearn it?" Amelia grinned. "Yeah, of course." 3 days later. Amelia blinked repeatedly, trying to get her eyes to adjust to the light. She had just gotten her sight back, but her vision occasionally became blurry, and there really wasn't much she could do about it but wait. She moaned in frustration, angry that she was still under house arrest. John and Sherlock were a bit too overprotective when it came to Amelia's safety. "Would you like a tea, dear?" Mrs. Hudson offered kindly, trotting into the living room where Amelia was currently composing a song for Sherlock. "Go away," Amelia snapped. "I'm busy." She pondered over her words. "Sorry, that was rude." "It's fine, dearie. I'm sure you're getting quite annoyed with— what did John call it?" "House arrest," Amelia answered in a mumble. "That's it," Mrs. Hudson smiled. "You're just like Sherlock. You need a nice crime to brighten your day." "Do you have one?" Amelia asked almost too eagerly. "Or do I have to kill someone just to get some attention?" Mrs. Hudson was completely unfazed, whistling to herself as she set the kettle. Amelia muttered some complaints before picking up Sherlock's violin and playing a 4-note melody on repeat. Mrs. Hudson glared at the youngest Watson in annoyance. The downstairs door opened, immediately slamming shut soon after. "Oh, look, they're back," Amelia said happily, jumping to her feet. She ran to the living room door, expectantly peering down at John and Sherlock as they came up the stairs. "Okay, this is absolute rubbish. I need to get out of this flat or I'm going to go insane." "Weren't you all ready?" John joked lightly. "Shut up, John," Amelia snapped in anger, glaring at her brother. Her eyes flicked to the violin case Sherlock was carrying. "What's that?" "Violin," Sherlock answered simply. "For you." "Really?" Amelia's eyes lit up in excitement, taking the case from Sherlock. "Electric one, too. Thanks, sir." Sherlock hummed absent-mindedly, walking over to the couch where he collapsed and fell into a deep sleep, his dreams filled of Amelia.